They've done it, ladies and gentlemen. The DNA has changed. We thought it was going to be in the summer. We thought it was going to be Brad Treliving to do it. And maybe in a way it was Brad Treliving who did it. It was just him who had to get out of the way for the DNA to change. One of the more inspired efforts from the Toronto Maple Leafs comes an hour and 15 minutes after the general manager is fired in like the most anticipated Maple Leafs game. I don't know how far back we want to date how anticipated the game is. Obviously, there were a bunch of anticipated games during this season here as well. The game against following the Mark Savard firing against the Pittsburgh Penguins was probably fairly anticipated. What are they going to do tonight? Looking at just the call out earlier in the season of Anthony Stolarz calling out the team. What were they going to do in response to some of that? There were some anticipated games along the way if we want to get technical with this one, but the Maple Leafs showed up. And they defeat the Anaheim Ducks here tonight in game number 75 of the season, 5-4. In the dying seconds of overtime, thanks to Johnny T with some OT heroics. Unnecessary, unfortunate. We continue to do the Tankathon top 5 and where you sit in that one. This isn't going to help your case when you're trying to poke your way into that top 5 and getting a better chance at getting that top 5 overall pick. Instead, it feels every day like you're just giving more hope to the people of Boston as we approach the lottery ball night, the draft lottery night here in the NHL. But we're going to break it all down here tonight. Game number 75 of the Maple Leaf season. In this victory in overtime against the Anaheim Ducks, we'll talk about the Treliving firing. We'll talk about the response to Gudas. We'll talk about people getting kicked out. I have some different thoughts tonight. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting show in terms of what my opinions are. I can't wait to hear what Mike in Buffalo has to say about everything. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about everything, because I have some thoughts myself about things that don't necessarily relate to a very specific incident, more maybe some bigger picture stuff. So we'll get into all that throughout the course of the show here tonight. Just quickly here off the top to remind everybody how the show goes. If you want to be a part of the show, we will open up callers later on, but more immediate, you can participate in the chat there. I will read the comments in the chat as we go throughout this one. I want to know how everyone in the chat feels about what happened. If you guys want to get your points across about the Brad Treliving firing, the timing of it all, what happens with Craig Berube, fire away there. More particularly, if you want to make sure that your question, comment, concern, whatever is read on the show here tonight, the one way to do so would be via Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chats go to Sick Kids Charity, Canada's #1 research-intensive children's hospital, #3 in North America. You click that little box that you see in the live chat. It's got the $ in it. You click on that. You type the message you want to send. You select the amount that you want to send, and I will read the Super Chats here tonight on the post-game show, whether they're questions for me, comments for me, questions or comments for Mike. We'll get into all of that throughout the course of the show here tonight, but make sure to subscribe, like the stream. Every set of 50 likes, we do the smelling salts, 50, 100, 150, 200, all the way through. Final thing here before we welcome in Mike from Buffalo. This show, as always, is a presentation of Bet365. Hockey fans, check out Bet365's 3-goal early payout. When your team goes up 3, you get paid. It's that simple. Download the app today. Must be 19 plus, Ontario only. Please play responsibly. With that, let's welcome him to the show. The perfect day to have him on here, to be honest with you. Let's welcome in from the Hockey Hot Stove, covering the Maple Leafs, Mike in Buffalo. Mike, what do you want to talk about?
Good morning, Zach. Well, I'll just say one positive thing tonight is Matias Maccelli did not score a point. So he would need to score 14 points in the last 7 games to cost the Leafs a second-round pick. These are the Pyrrhic victories that we have to think about, because this team is just piloting themselves into the side of a mountain like Patsy Cline or Jim Croce or whatever. I mean, it's absolutely absurd. Just friggin' lose. I mean, you suck, and they do.
They
And
do.
the way that they played against St. Louis is more reflective of this season than
Yeah.
this game. They were embarrassing, and they hung Joseph Wall out to dry for the 8th straight time they gave up over 35, 32, I think 32 shots. But most nights it's 40 shots. The guy should sue his defense for lack of support. And then, okay, I wrote this today, and people may disagree, but avenging Matthews is meaningless. It was necessary to do it in the moment. The third period against Anaheim, the fight with Dakota Joshua, the game after in Buffalo, and everything tonight. Was it entertaining? Sure. I love Max Domi uppercut Gudas 4 or 5 times like he was Mike Tyson. But your captain is still out for the year.
Yep.
And you didn't do anything in the moment. So you can do everything that you've been doing, and we're really rallying. Wonderful. You didn't do it in the moment. And the players who were on the ice I don't care what they do, they fell short when they needed to. And that is the big problem.
Okay, let me just... I'm going to distinguish how I view it. I have kind of 2 separate things here. One, I agree with you 100%. The moment to do it, to show that you are some group that is tight and a real team and not, as Merrick puts it all the time, a club, the distinguishing factor on those two, that was in the moment. That was in real time when Gudas had it happen, and was standing there kind of looking around like, I gave him full marks for the response that he gave. Obviously, hate the hit, yada, yada, yada. But I gave him full marks. He said after, he's like, it was a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. It's a bad hit. I can't be doing that. I never want to hurt guys. No matter what you think about Radko Gudas, I gave him credit. I personally gave him credit for coming out and saying that. I gave him credit for playing in this game tonight. But he knew right in the moment. He's like, this is a bad hit. Somebody's going to fight me. And he kind of stood around and was like, what the hell? That was the moment to show that. Everything else outside of this is kind of performative, more or less, right? You brought up the points about what happened in the third period of that game. You bring up what happened in the next game against Buffalo, all performative, even in different instances. Since that point, I look at the Riley one against McLean, which I think you were on with me for that one as well in the Islanders game. We talked about performative. Again, too late, too little, too late. Now, where I will jump in and just say, I saw people online criticizing the Maple Leafs for doing this here tonight. I think it's fair to criticize them in regards to, you had the chance and now doing this proves nothing. What I don't think it's fair to criticize them for is you needed... I don't even know. It kind of sounds like a joke as I'm even saying this, Mike. So I completely get when people are going to be like, what the hell are you talking about? But you kind of needed to do something in this game. It had to happen, and you should have shown up fired up. And they did show up fired up. And everything that happened here and the physicality and everything, it should have happened. It would have been more embarrassing if it even didn't happen again here tonight. So I just want to make it clear as mud here as I'm talking about this. I agree 110%. Tonight means nothing in regards to changing the perspective of anybody on this team or in that room from what happened in the first situation when it immediately happened. I agree with you, and I'm taking that and I'm just parking that to the side. The other piece of it is some shit had to happen here tonight. And then naturally it seemed like the guys were fired up in this one, and that's when it escalates to the point that it did. I don't blame them for that. I think it's a little bit ridiculous to be like, what are these guys doing going out there and doing that tonight? As I saw some of the commentary online, no shit, they're going to do this. They did get criticized relentlessly, as they should have. A response like this was going to happen. And I think it's a little bit unfair to be like, well, why are you doing this? Well, you would have lost your minds if they didn't do this. They had to do this tonight.
Yeah, I was gonna just say it's like the imagine the reaction you and I would be having tonight if they didn't do anything, if they didn't touch
Man.
Gudas and they just, that we'd be losing our minds. This team is gutless, whatever.
Mhm.
Okay, but and I think the key word, like you mentioned, is performative.
Mhm.
They had to do this. This is not inherent in their DNA. They had to do it because if they didn't do it, they would be. I mean, they're already the laughing stock of the league the way that they've a team with immense talent who okay they had a bunch of injuries but just has not performed. And
Yeah.
when they did perform in that small 10-game window, they went 8-0-2 and they were in a playoff spot, and then they stopped performing. They stopped doing what Berube wanted them to do, and maybe they're not capable. Maybe the roster was not assembled correctly to play the type of game that Berube played. But as a coach, he's got to adjust to the team that he has, and he hasn't, and that's the reason why he'll be following Brad T at the golf course pretty soon. But I mean, this game, the only thing, like William Nylander can cross-check anybody he wants, whatever. I still have my opinion of William Nylander. He's a great player when he feels like playing, and tonight he felt like playing, and he had a goal and 3 assists. But half the time he disappears. He's the Swedish Alexei Kovalev. He's immensely talented, and he only plays when he wants to. And unfortunately, he doesn't want to close to 82 games. The thing I'm encouraged about is a player like Easton Cowan and the
Yeah.
way Easton Cowan is played. I mean, what this is showing you is how stupid it was to sit him for almost a month. You could say, well, it recharged his batteries. No, he's a 20-year-old kid. He needed to play. And because they mismanaged things and couldn't send him to the Marlies, and then rested him before and then rested him after, I'd like an explanation. There is no explanation. Berube has not offered it. It makes no sense. And now you finally are putting him in a top 6 role with Tavares and Nylander, and look how he's playing. He's playing like the player that we thought he was, but he didn't get the opportunity. He was playing on the 4th line for half the time in the first 45 games. And now all of a sudden, they could have done this earlier in the year, and I think you would have had the same result.
Yeah, the one thing too that I think with Cowan that is also encouraging on that is the ability to learn. And I know that phrase and learning lessons is mocked here in this city, and I think rightfully so. But the difference is when you're in your 50th, 60th game in the NHL and you're 20 years old coming from the OHL, learning lessons should be viewed and treated differently than it is when you've lost 6-7 years in a row in the first round. That's the difference, is that when you are Easton Cowan and you're learning lessons, it feels a whole lot different. When you're Auston Matthews and William Nylander and John Tavares and Mitch Marner and you've lost to the Boston Bruins yet again in Game 7 yet again, learning lessons and that whole sentiment, it kind of just gets laughed off. Easton Cowan is not a world beater out there. I don't watch him and think that he's the second coming of Jesus on skates. That's not the feeling that I get. But you're seeing him make mistakes and learn from them, Mike. You know how many times earlier in the year he would have I look at it in the two polar opposites that he would do with the puck handling. There would be times where he would hold on to it for way, way, way too long, which I think is something you get away with in junior hockey because he's like, well, I'm Easton Cowan. I can do whatever I want. And I'm not saying that because he thinks he's all self-righteous and stuff, but just like the understanding of what he just did in the OHL for the last couple of years. And then it gets him into trouble. Or the other way would be kind of panicking when the puck came to his stick and getting it off a little bit too quickly because he's adjusting to the pace and being like, I got to go, I got to do this, I got to get it there. Now, what you're seeing out of him is finding the middle ground. learning the pace a little bit more. Hey, I can hang on to it here in this play. I can hang on to it and take an extra half a second, while also recognizing at the same time, sometimes when you're breaking out of your zone, the puck comes on your stick, it's got to go right off because you got a centerman coming through and a defenseman pinching down on you rather than holding on to it, trying to make a play up the wall, etc. You're seeing that learning. And that learning even extends to the intangibles aspect of his game. I know that we just made a whole lot about the performativeness of this group and what we saw. That's a guy I'm not willing to slap the performative label on in Easton Cowan because he's 20 years old, Mike. He saw the incident happen the first time. I excused him from that incident. Would I have loved if he jumped Radko Gudas the first time? Sure. Like, of course. I would have been jumping up and down, doing cartwheels if Easton Cowan was the guy who jumped in there, being like, holy shit, look at this guy. He didn't. He took it upon himself to say, I should have done better. But then the next time that the incident or an incident occurred, first guy in there. The second time that it occurred, first guy in there. William Nylander tonight gets mauled in front of the net, first guy in there. That's a guy that I'm looking at continuously in these games and going, he's learning. He's not just learning about protecting his teammates and what you need to do to respond. He's learning about the pace of play, his comfort level, the decision making. Like, his game is evolving in front of our eyes, and it is infuriating, to your point, that it took this long and to get to this point in the season for them to finally give this kid an opportunity to see this here now.
Yeah. Do you think that Nylander or Riley or Brandon Carlo, whoever was on the ice when Tavares got laid out by Nikita Zadorov, that they were going to jump on Nikita Zadorov? I mean, I give Cowan a lot of credit because, that's a 6'7", 255-pound mean mother. And he jumped on him because that's what you have to do. That is inherent. That has to be in the DNA of every player. If one of your star players or even one of your fourth liners gets laid out, you've got to come to his defense. That's team toughness. They don't have Matthew Olivier on this roster. They don't have an enforcer that can beat the crap out of somebody if they're out of line. They have to do it as a group. And going back to one thing you said, I give Gudas a hell of a lot of credit because he was injured last week. I think it was Thursday. Didn't play in the game against Edmonton. Could have very easily sat this game out and didn't because he knew he had to basically take the abuse. He's not a big fighter. He's just, he's a rough and tumble defenseman. And, he got his clock cleaned by Domi. But, great. I'm sure that makes everybody feel better. Except for Auston Matthews, who's laid up in his place in Toronto with his knee up, and he's going to be out for 11 more weeks before he can skate.
Well, he might be in Germany or Turkey or Arizona. Who the hell knows? I mean, at this point, the mystery and in-season mystery trips are. We'll find out about them at some point. But yeah, I mean, Cowan, incredibly impressed again tonight. Like, I thought he was a guy with a lot of jump too. Even just the physicality of tonight's game aside, I thought he was making plays. He was making great reads in the defensive zone. You can tell that some of that confidence is starting to kind of show through, and the player that he was in junior hockey, it might not directly translate. He might not be a guy who puts up 80, 90, 100 points in the National Hockey League, but to me, he's showing enough that he can be a top six guy for your group at some point. When that is, I'm not entirely sure. Obviously, throughout the rest of this season, but I mean, if you're going to be like a competitive team, where does he slot in? Regardless, at some point, this is a guy that, in my opinion, is going to be a guy you're going to heavily rely upon, especially if he continues to show things like what he did here tonight, sticking up for Nylander, or over the last little while where he's come to his teammates' defense. Where do you want to start here tonight? I think we've covered a couple of the big topics, Mike. So let's go back. We'll go back and forth on stuff. But like, obviously, for those watching this right now, I did an entire hour and 20-minute reaction live to the Tree Living stuff. So I've given a lot of my opinions on the Tree Living thing. I'm perfectly okay to rehash things here, but I haven't heard your opinion. So we can do that. We can do the game. We can get into all of it combined. I'm going to kind of hand this over to you. The floor is yours. Where do you want to start right now?
We'll start with Treliving because it's the elephant in the room. I mean, I was of the opinion that he should have been fired. Very rarely do you see GMs fired in the middle of the season. I know everybody says Kevin Adams, but Kevin Adams was basically dead man walking for the first 2 months of the season, and when the Sabres played as badly as they did, and his firing has nothing to do with that team playing better. They just decided to play better. Everything fell into place. It's just, I don't think Kevin Adams being fired was the reason, but. And one of the things that I heard and people are, scratching their head about is how could you fire him now and how could you let him operate at the deadline? Well, okay, if you fired him, who's going to be the guy handling all the trades at the deadline? Somebody who's not as experienced as Brad Treliving. You have Brandon Pridham or Shane Doan or Haley Wickenheiser. It's like, he's still a veteran general manager. Now, I always point to this. Dave Nonis in 2014, when Brendan Shanahan was hired, he was dead man walking. He was going to get fired. Everybody knew he was gone, that Shanahan was going to bring in his own crew. He made the trades at the deadline. He traded Cody Franzen to Nashville and got a first-round pick for him. So he made those deals. I mean, you just can't simply axe the guy. And, because you don't really have a viable option unless you have another general manager sitting around in mothballs that you can just take out of the box and say, okay, here you go. There wasn't, so I didn't have a problem with that. Now, the thing that we mentioned before we started recording is whether he had guardrails on, whether Keith Pelly told him, okay, you can trade our unrestricted free agents. You can trade Nick Waugh with a year left in his contract. You can trade Lawton. You can trade McMahon. Don't trade the big guys. And from all the rumors, he put out Knies' name out there. Now, everything that's been said is they put Knies' name out there because St. Louis put Robert Thomas and Kyrou out there, and they were asking for 4 pieces, and he wanted to see what was going to come back. And okay. Fine. If you didn't have any intention to trade him and you just wanted to hear what people were going to offer, fine. But I don't think that was it. I think he was actually thinking about trading him. And that plus the Carlo deal, which we're sweating, every win, whether they're going to be in the top, get a top 5 draft pick, and that's less and less. And the report that they almost had Braden Shen last year. And just think how much worse they would be had they made this trade. Easton Cowan and Ben Danford for Braden Shen. Then you'd have no prospects, and you'd have a 34-year-old center who's on the last legs of a very good career. That would have been, the final nail in the coffin. Now they probably wouldn't have made the deal for Lawton, but still, I mean, all the stuff that didn't happen is enough evidence to make sure that you fired him before he could cause more damage.
So I can't really refute too much about what you're saying about who comes in and runs it. I just can't. I scratch my brain and ask myself the same questions. I guess for me, the answer at the time when I thought about it earlier, and then what I continue to come back to, is Brandon Pridham. And you let him take the handle on it. Not an experienced guy running it from the GM's perspective. Like, he hasn't been the one calling the shots and being the gunslinger. He's been the guy who's riding shotgun for the most part through 2 regimes here now, from Kyle Dubas into Brad Treliving. My issue with it is more in regards to you experience frustrations. Well, look, I'm saying this from the perspective of the articles that came out, and particularly the one from Chris Johnson outlining the difficulties other teams had, and even internally with Brad Treliving at trade deadlines, and how everything had kind of just being messy about the handling of attempted trades and everything, people inside the room and people inside that organization had to have known about that and how those things took place. So they witnessed how that all went down. They witnessed the trades. We're talking about the Nick Marner one. We're talking about Dakota Joshua. We're talking about Michelli, the trades in the summer. You witnessed how those went down. You've seen how this season has played out right now. And then you said after 3 weeks of no hockey, yep, let's have this guy going. Like, my thing, Mike, is just you had time to come up with a plan as an organization, even if you were going to let Brad Treliving go, even if it was going to be Brandon Pridham to come in there in replacement of Brad Treliving, to at least come up with some type of plan where you could have approached it together as an organization and then just been like, Pridham, you're the guy leading the charge through this here, and then let's get on with it. Because to me, you just ran the risk of him doing something stupid. You talked about the Knies one. Yes, now firing him and saying, yeah, you're going to avoid that. That's great. What if he just did pull the trigger at the trade deadline? What if those things happen? And that to me is where I get frustrated. And I feel like big picture, what we're looking at is a group in terms of Pelly to the MLSE ownership to the Maple Leafs front office that lacks a plan. It feels like they lack a plan. I feel like they're constantly flying by the seat of their pants. Even talking about what they were going to do at the deadline, Mike. It was like, well, they're going to see how this week plays out. And then the Leafs won 3 fucking games going into the Olympic break. And it was like, well, we're not really sure. Let's see what happens in the 5 games after the Olympic break. Why? Why do we not have a legitimate plan in place? And then even the Brad Treliving firing right now, although I agree with people on, and I agree with you on like, hey, getting a head start, setting things up, getting yourself ready to go after the new management regime and the new coaching staff and everybody that's going to come in here. I agree with all of that. It's just the timing of everything. It just feels discombobulated, messy, and without a plan, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, the organization has been run and is reflective of being a cluster F. They're really just, it's chaotic, and it shouldn't be chaotic. I mean, this is, one of the premier franchises in professional sport. You can laugh, well, they haven't won a Stanley Cup since 1967. I mean, they're the most valuable franchise. They have probably the biggest fan base, and we're being served this, crap sandwich. So, I mean, one of the things, the only thing that you could criticize in terms of Treliving and him staying on through the deadline was what he got for those players. And we talked about it before. I think he hit a home run on the Nick trade. I don't think anybody thought they'd get a first-round pick. We thought that the Bobby McMahon trade was okay. But, of course, Bobby McMahon has turned into Mike Bossy right now. He's got like 7 goals in 9 games. He's on a salary drive. He's going to probably get $6 million a year. And, folks, he's not coming back to Toronto, especially if he's going to be asking for $6 million a year. You've got a free agent class right now that's Alex Tuck, Bobby McMahon, and Mason Marchment are probably your 3 best forwards. And then, maybe Rasmus Andersson hits the market the way he's played in Vegas. And, you can forget about that now with Toronto because Treliving probably would have paid $10 million to get his former Flame. And see, here is one of the things. You know this. I know this. Other podcasters like my buddy Steve Dangle has talked about this ad nauseum. Brad Treliving has not learned the lesson that the Calgary Flames will never trade with him. He tried to get Zadorov. He tried to get Tanev. I think he tried to get Elias Lindholm. He was trying to get Rasmus Andersson, and that's why he panicked at the 11th hour and made the Brandon Carlo deal at like $255 on deadline day and said, oh, I'll give you a top 5 protected because we're not going to be that bad. Well, yeah, you could be. That's why you always get top 10. Did you learn the lesson that Brian Burke didn't learn when he made the Phil Kessel deal? That gave them Tyler Seguin and Dougie Hamilton. two unprotected first-round picks and a second-round pick for Phil Kessel. And that, I think killed this franchise for half a decade.
Yep. I mean, the reports of that one too was that he didn't even pick up the phone and call Don Sweeney until like 2 p.m. There was an hour left in the deadline, and that's when he started to pursue. And at that point, Sweeney picks up the phone and says, "This is a desperate man. Let's see what we can get out of him." And they showed desperation in the trade that they swung to get Brandon Carlo. But look, was it the right decision to fire Brad Treliving and move on? Yes, it was. Am I complaining about the firing? No. Am I upset about the timing or anything? No. I'm just confused by it. That's all. It's just the timeline of events and the way everything has been portrayed by everyone that's involved in this or around this. It's just sloppy and it's messy. Even as far as this firing goes tonight, Mike, okay, you want to fire him and you want to get him out of here? Sure, do what you've got to do. Why did it happen an hour and 15 minutes before the Radko Gudas game on the West Coast against Anaheim on a Monday night? Okay, sure, maybe the murmurs were coming out there. Kyprios obviously had alluded to something earlier today, and they decided, okay, now we've got to get on with this thing. But, why? Why even right now? Some of this stuff just feels so unlike the organization from anything we've seen over the last 9 years, and much more like the organization that we saw. You would know better than me how to even pinpoint the timeline of it, but like the 15 to 20 years before these guys all got here, before Shanny and Lou and Dubas in that area, where it was, regardless of how you think about how they ran the team, again, no problem with people complaining about that. In the team construct, in the trades and the signings, whatever. No issues with people complaining about those things. I'm on the same page with a lot of it. But at least it all felt clean for the most part. And even this just announcement tonight, Mike, it just felt messy again.
Yeah, I mean, it seems chaotic. It seems, did they decide they were going to fire him, but then the rumor got out there and they decided, okay, well, we can't let Elliot Friedman and Nick Kyprios upstage us, so we're going to announce it. I can't. Let them report that. It's like, do it at the right time. Don't do it in a panicked way and whip out a statement that ChatGPT probably wrote. But my thing here is, okay, they fired him. The only negative to that, because he couldn't cause any more damage now because the trade deadline had passed. He's been signing college free agents, which I think is a constructive thing because I consider them free swings. It's like, go out, sign as many of these guys as you can. Maybe you hit on one. Maybe they were in on TJ Hughes, the leading scorer for the University of Michigan, that might be out the door now that Treliving is fired. Who knows whether he would come to Toronto or, because it's a rudderless ship right now. But yeah. That was the one positive thing. But now you've got a coach in limbo. I think you and I both know what the fate of him is, but I think it's a foregone conclusion, but we'll see. To use the expression, how leafy would it be that they fire Treliving and keep Berube?
Sorry, Mike, they fire him and they fire Treliving, that is, and they bring in a new guy, and the first words out of his mouth are, well, we're going to take the opportunity to evaluate everything we have here, and Berube doesn't go anywhere for this entire summer. My head will explode. And that's not me trying to degrade or anything Craig Berube, but it is time for him to go. Very clearly, it's time for him to go, and it's time for them to start clean. If that happens, which I would put like a minuscule percentage chance, I would say anywhere from like 1 to 5% chance that happens, there's still a chance. But if that happens, my head would pop off my body.
Yeah, I joked with somebody. I said, no, the reason they didn't fire Berube is because they want to lose the last 8 games. And if they fire him and bring in Derek Lalonde, he's going to want to actually win. So
yeah.
Everything that happened tonight, they're down 3-1 in the third period, and they come and rally and get 2 points. They were 2 points out of a top 5 draft slot. Now they're in 11th. So it's like, which, this is the thing. If you're going to end the season this way, better to be 11th or 12th to give Boston a pick in the middle of the first round than, the worst thing that can happen is them finishing 6th and giving them a top 6 draft pick. And or the of course the disaster scenario is they finish in the top 5 and a lower team wins the lottery and they fall to 6th. That's there's again the Leafy thing. But I mean, the lowest they could probably get is 5 because I don't think you can catch like Vancouver or the Rangers or those teams. But if you're not going to do that, then I'll finish 11th or 12th and give them a middle of the round. I mean, it's still going to be a good player. It's a very good draft. I'm not boned up on it yet, but I will be before the draft. I'm sure they'll get a good player. But remember, the Leafs gave up a first-round pick to get rid of Patrick Marleau's contract, and that turned out to be Seth Jarvis. It's funny how Tyler Seguin, Dougie Hamilton. It's like all these guys turn into really good players. It can't be a bust like Jeff Ware or somebody. What I'm saying? It can never be that. They can never screw up that. They didn't trade the Boston a pick to Boston and they took Zach Senyshyn or Jacob Zaboral. No, they got Tyler Seguin.
Yep. Yes, I know. It is the leafiest possible outcomes. Okay, let's go. Do you have anything else here on Tree Living that you wanna talk about?
Just a remark from somebody when they had heard he was fired, and he said, "I don't think Brad Treliving will ever get a job as a GM in the NHL again. He's destroyed 2 franchises, Calgary and Toronto." And I said, this is the same league that rehired Stan Bowman. This is the same league that has hired Peter Chiarelli.
That's the guy I was going to say.
And please God, do not have him as one of the finalists for the Leafs GM job, because I think everybody will jump off the Burlington Skyway if that happens. We can talk about who we think the candidates are.
That's what I was going to ask you. The next question is who do you think candidates are?
I saw the poll and I was laughing. I'm sorry. And he's a Hall of Famer and he was a great defenseman. But Chris Pronger doesn't know anything about being a GM. He doesn't. He's a commentator. He's a commentator on television. I know he worked with the Flyers.
And the Panthers, I think.
And the Panthers a little bit, I think. Yeah, you're right. But this is like Mark Messier. There was always this talk about Mark Messier wanted to be GM of the Rangers. And it was like always like, oh, maybe. I'm sorry. This is too important of a job to give to a neophyte. And Chris Pronger he has no experience whatsoever. So, I automatically rule him out of hand. Now, I would like to automatically rule out of hand Doug Armstrong, but everybody keeps mentioning Doug Armstrong. Maybe it's going to happen, but I look at the St. Louis Blues and the wreck that they are in right now, and I'm like, sure, give me some of that. I'm sorry if we're talking about an effective general manager like, say, Jim Nill in Dallas, I sign up for that in 2 seconds. But I don't think he's leaving Dallas. I don't think good GMs are leaving the places that they're, I'm sure they all have egos and like, oh, I can tackle that job in Toronto. Give me that responsibility. I'd love to think that that's the case, but like there's 4 or 5 names out there, Armstrong being the one that's the biggest name. But I hope that the point of firing Treliving early is that they're going to do a search and a very, the season ends on April 16th. I would hope by April 17th or 18th they have hired their general manager.
So the way I'm looking at candidates here is I think they need to find somebody who's going to be willing to be creative. I don't entirely know who that person is, and I can't give you that answer right now. It's probably going to take a lot more digging into and talking to people and trying to figure out what we can find about who would be out there and who would be available and that kind of stuff, or who would be interested in a GM job. And when I say these names to you, this name to you, I'm just going to throw it out there. And by no means am I suggesting he's interested in leaving where he is, or he would be interested in coming here anyways. But, it's looking at a guy like Sonny Maeda in Florida, who's been a part of building that group and that kind of situation. To your point, does not have the experience as being a GM. So you need to then get creative with how you build your front office, which I don't know if Keith Pelly is interested and MLSE are interested in beefing this operation up and having to spend more money, because I think in that case you need presidents and you need to have advisors and that kind of stuff. And I doubt that they want to do that, especially considering what we just saw last year. But I don't have an issue heading down that pathway if you're going to go and find somebody who hasn't necessarily been there and done that, because the other thing that I look at is like the success Eric Tulsky has had in Carolina. He had never been an NHL front office GM before he took that job on, and I think that Eric Tulsky has done a good job in Carolina. I think that he's setting himself up for success. That isn't just going to be 1 year at a time. I think he's building something out there that they can look forward to year in and year out and know that they're going to be competitive. Do they have their issues? Sure. Yes, of course they do. But I think he's done a good job. You need to just find somebody who's willing to be creative. Like, that's a guy who went out and took a swing on Mikko Rantanen, and then when it didn't work out, found his way back out of it and still made it into a good situation. Who's that guy? Who's the guy who's willing to take a risk? Who's the guy who's willing to cut ties with players, with names, with all that kind of stuff to make a move? Again, I'm not saying it's Sonny Maeda and he's the answer. I'm just giving you an example of a name. So I don't want to get radioed on that of me being like, Sonny Maeda is going to be the next GM. That's not the point that I'm making. It's more so looking around and being like, who is in a front office right now? Who is a smart person that's relied upon and looking to take the next step? Because if that's the case, I don't mind that. But again, back to that point, which is the all-important one right now, someone else has to be here too. It can't just be that guy. I strongly feel that way.
Yeah, I mean, we started to hear the names even before Treliving was fired, but the usual suspects, Chiarelli, who I guess is in the mix for the Nashville GM job. Mark Bergevin, who, it's like, I mean, none of these like really that, Doug Armstrong's been an executive for what, 30 years? I know he's only in his early 60s. Maybe he's looking for another challenge. Maybe he just wants to be president and let Alex Steen run the St. Louis Blues. Where there's smoke, there's fire. His name keeps getting mentioned, so there must be some thought that he's. I mean, this is very similar, Zach, to we heard about Brian Burke coming to Toronto for about a year before he actually did. So the constant mentioning of Doug Armstrong's name just tells me that there must be something to it. But to your point, Keith Pelly has eliminated, scorched earth across the board, the Raptors president, the TFC president, and then he fired Shanahan and didn't replace him. The only president standing is the almighty Mark Shapiro with the Blue Jays. So do you think now he's going to go back and say, we've got to hire because if you're hiring a inexperienced general manager, like Tulsky, like Maeda, like there are a few other assistant GMs out there, you have to have a strong president. Now, it didn't work in Vancouver, but they had Rutherford over Patrick Allvin. It did work in Montreal with Kent Hughes, who was an agent under Jeff Gorton. So there are examples of that scenario working. I just think you need, if you're hiring an inexperienced general assistant GM to be general manager, you have to have an overseer that's experienced that can point them in the right direction, because Keith Pelly can't. He's a businessman and he can be the chairman of MLS&E, but he can't make hockey decisions. And that's what, he cannot be involved in hockey decisions because that's not his area of expertise.
Yeah. Mike Fami in the chat says, Bobby Webster is the GM and president of the Toronto Raptors. That's the point that Mike and I are both getting at. Great. Call the guy what you want.
Right.
It's the same as Brad Treliving might as well have been the president and GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs, just based on how this operation was run. He might as well have been, right? But yeah, I don't see a scenario where they do that.
The new guy could be VP of hockey operations and general manager. The whole point here is you need two people. Now, I think they needed two people, and I think having Shanahan there and then having a general manager under him. The problem is that Shanahan did almost everything wrong, but you would hope that you would get a president who would do things right. It's easy with 2020 hindsight, but Brendan Shanahan, was able to accumulate the young talent that this organization had been missing for years, and then mismanaged it, and missed and did not read the landscape correctly. Well, now you need a president, somebody, the captain of the ship, to point them in the right direction. And I'm sure they're going to have candidates, but it's going to be who is the right candidate, and then that person chooses the coach, because you have to have somebody who is completely aligned, president, general manager, coach, and then you address the roster, which I think we both know there's going to be significant changes to this roster.
Yeah, and I mean, there should be, but again, I think it has to be somebody who's going to be creative. Whoever that guy is, it needs to be someone who's going to be creative, Mike. I'm tired of going into free agency and just hiring or just signing the names because you know the names, and bringing those guys in because you know who they are, and making the trades for guys because you know who they are. Find the guy before he's the guy. Find the Sam Bennett and the Sam Reinhart before they're Sam Bennett and Sam Reinhart. Go and find Brandon Hagel before he's Brandon Hagel, and Darren Radish and JJ Moser before they're Darren Radish and JJ Moser. Now, I picked two teams that have had a lot of success, obviously, but the point is that the Maple Leafs are always behind the curve. Go find the guy before he's that guy.
And the Maple Leafs will be the one, and maybe they won't be now that they've fired Treliving, but had Treliving stayed, and it wasn't a joke. I said, you watch, they're going to sign Darren Radish for about $5 million a year after he has one good year playing for Tampa Bay. It's like, okay, not to say it's easy to score 20 goals or 65 points or whatever he has right now, but he's playing on a power play with Kucherov and Cirelli and Braden Point. Anybody who's got decent ability is going to rack up points with those guys. I give him a lot of credit for playing well without Hedman in the lineup, and with that team severely shorthanded. But he's going to be a free agent, and I could have just seen, he's right-handed, he's a power play quarterback, this and that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's also 30 years old, and this is the first big year that he's had, and you probably would have gone out because Rasmus Anderson probably is going to sign in Vegas, and you probably would have wasted big money on a guy like Darren Radish, and that would be another cluster. So, hopefully they bring in somebody with some better judgment and who can sniff out some of those, guys like Hagel, who was a 6th round pick of the Sabres, who they didn't sign, and he went to Chicago and then made something of himself, and then Tampa traded 2 first round picks for him, and now he's an Olympian.
Man, this summer and what this summer is going to be is very, very, very interesting. There's some quotes coming out here from Craig Berube following this one. He was asked by David Alter whether he's thinking about his future after Brad Treliving's dismissal. He says, quote, "I don't think about it, guys. I mean, I really don't. You probably think I'm bullshitting you, but I'm not. I feel for Brad right now and his family. That's what I feel right now." I think he's probably not thinking about his future because he knows that his future is not here. It's just a matter of whether they decide to do it tomorrow morning or they decide to do it after game 82, and Keith Pelly could wake up at any given moment and be like, well, that's enough of you.
See, the only read that I had about, because you've talked about it a number of times, and the Mark Savard firing and how puzzling that was. The only thing I can think of, and I have no, this is just like off the top of my head, is that Brad Treliving was told by Keith Pelly, you can't fire Berube, so the most that you can do is fire an assistant, so he fired Mark Savard.
Mm-hmm.
If your general manager did not have the power to fire a coach, then you may as well have fired the general manager at that point, because he's powerless.
Yeah, 100%. I was looking for quotes following this game. I just want to get your thoughts quickly. Jordan Schmaltz tweeted this. It just caught my eye. This is non-Leafs related, but I had a laugh just reading this one. Troy Terry, highly skilled player, probably a nice kid, but 53 games, 0 hits. He hasn't rubbed a guy out along the wall like a masseuse at the West Garden? ? Wow. Did you have a laugh at the Troy Terry stat as much as I did during this game? Because they did a highlight montage of the moments he could have hit somebody tonight and didn't. And I was like, 53 games, man. I know this is Leafs stuff aside, but did that not stand out to you as much as it did to me? What the hell's going on out there?
Joel Quenneville must be pulling the hair out of his head with that. I mean, and he's not a small guy, so he should be able, but that's just not his game. I mean, that stat is up there with the Jack Eichel doesn't have a power play goal.
Yeah.
This season. It's like, I mean, yeah, sometimes stats are extremely baffling. I mean, that I cover the Sabres as well as the Leafs. Zach Metza, who is basically a 6'7" defenseman, small guy, really, smart. When Connor Timmins broke his leg in December, Zach Metza was called up. With Zach Metza in the lineup, the Sabres are 29-5-4. And then they sent him to the minors and they lost 3 games, and now they've called him back. So it's like their lucky charm is Zach Metza.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense because Connor Timmins is a decent depth defenseman, but that's the way things fall sometimes. But when it comes to the Leafs, the only statistics right now that really matters is where they are in the standings, and 3 of the last 4 games they've won. And they are killing their chances of getting, especially in this draft. And like I said, I'm not an expert on the draft, but when you got a Veerhoff and a Chase Reed in this draft who could be difference makers on the blue line, and this team needs a linchpin number 1 defenseman more than anything. More than a second line center, they need a number 1 or a top pairing defenseman, and you have an opportunity to get that. You should basically sit everybody and tank and get a top 5 pick, but they won't do that.
No, they will not. Yeah, I mean, look, if William Nylander doesn't play in this game tonight, you probably lose in reg and just shut it down and we're all good to go here. But not the case. He plays and he puts up 4 points, of course. Let's do some stuff on the game here, and then I'll wrap with you, and I'll open the call line for people. So,
cool.
I want to know what would you make of the officiating tonight? I I think they were a little horny to call penalties to kick guys out in this. I think that there was a
edict.
Yeah. They knew Peros was there.
Yeah, and I'm waiting for the missive from the Department of Player Safety that Michael Pezzetta will have an in-person hearing tomorrow, because that's what, like, I mean, I'm a conspiracy theorist when it comes to George Peros. If somebody breathes the wrong way on the Leafs, they get 5 games. If somebody hits a Leaf, he gets a $5,000 fine. Yeah. I mean, that's the way it seems. I will never get over the fact that Morgan Riley was suspended for 5 games for a forearm shiver on Ridley Gregg, and Radko Gudas got 5 games for ending Auston Matthews' season. And that's the same Department of Player Safety and the same guy running it. So I'm sorry. You can't. Everybody knows that George Peros stinks at his job. But he's not really held to account by Gary Bettman. Gary Bettman just wants this off of his table and let George Peros take the slings and arrows. He should be fired, but he probably has better job security than most people.
I just thought it was ridiculous tonight, how quick they were. I think there was an understanding that there was going to be physicality, and they just didn't want to let it get out of hand, which I completely understand. But in the same breath, like kicking Michael Pezzetta out for abuse of an official, if he said something, I can understand. But based on the interaction that was had on the ice, I thought it was a little bit insane. Like, he's not wrestling the linesman, like he's not doing anything egregious. In fact, the linesman had a pretty tight grip on him there, shaking him around a little bit. From what I saw on the TV broadcast, the second the linesman told him enough, go to the box, he let it go, and he turned around and went to the box. To then kick him out after that, I thought was a little insane. The 10-minute aggressor on Max Domi, again, I think it was just them trying to make an example in that situation. He taps Minchikov. Minchikov turns around. They both drop their gloves, and Max Domi's getting a 10-minute aggressor in which he's kicked out of the game. A little bit egregious on that as well. I don't know. I'm not going to complain about the officiating too much. I just thought in general it was just a little fast to the whistle both ways. Like, I'm bringing up Leaf specific incidents, but both ways. There were times where I'm probably looking going, really, that's the penalty. Like, I think there was one Quillen drew that I was like, okay, I don't know, I guess if you want to call a penalty there, sure, call a penalty. But it felt very much like everyone in the NHL is watching this game tonight. George Peros is here. We got to make sure that we're on our game. And it felt like they went a little over the top.
Yeah, we're in control here, so we're going to make sure that nothing gets out of hand. I mean, it didn't really get out of hand. I mean, there was obviously a number of incidents, but it didn't get like Buffalo, Tampa Bay. And if you don't really, I mean, next week, Tampa Bay comes to Buffalo again. If you don't think George Peros is probably going to be sitting in the press box watching that one, of course he is, because they don't. I mean, that was probably the most exciting game of the year. But let's calm the waters. No, let's not. I'm not saying stoke things up, but I mean, that's what we want to watch. That's what most people want to watch, is exciting hockey, physical hockey with some fighting and some passion to it. So, yeah, I mean, they didn't want things to get out of hand, and things didn't get out of hand. And now the remaining 7 games of the season, the Leafs will just crawl into a hole, and
Dude, the game on Thursday. This is what I'm like. I was texting with somebody during the game tonight. They're like, I can't believe you have to stay up and watch this. I'm like at least I have something tonight to talk about. The game on Thursday is going to be the ultimate drop off, where I'm excited because I'm a hockey fan, as are you, and as are a lot of people in the chat. I get it, but we're going to be excited because they're going to tune in. We're going to watch Macklin Celebrini. Outside of that, A, I don't give a shit what happens in the game other than wanting a loss. And B, I know that whatever animosity the Leafs brought to the game tonight, it's gone. It's gone on Thursday. By tomorrow morning, this is all worn off. They're like, we did our job. Yep. We got our guy. That's it. We're good. We've got 7 games left. Let's go to San Jose on Thursday. Let's just get in, get out, and let's move on with it. Like, we're not going to see anything on Thursday unless somebody hits a goaltender or something in which it needs a response. That will be the only situation. But outside of that, we're not going to see any fire or passion or anything like that. So it's going to be ridiculous when we get to that one. It's hard to watch, and knowing that it's just going to fall off a cliff, it's going to be really disappointing.
Yeah, and I can predict that this is going to happen because the Leafs have a vested interest in the LA Kings getting into the playoffs, because they would get a 2nd-round pick for Scott Laughton instead of a 3rd. But they're gonna beat the LA Kings and cost themselves a higher draft pick. That's a game that I would call up David Ayers and put him in net and let you know what I'm saying? It's like, I mean, just, okay, you want to win 6 of the last 7 games and draft 14th or 15th, or have the Bruins draft 14th or 15th, fine. That's, knock yourself out. But that game is the one game that you need to lose because you benefit from losing on that one. These are the only little victories that you can, avoid giving up a second round pick if Matias Maccelli scores 51 points. Get a second round pick if the LA Kings make the playoffs. These are the little things. They may not mean something, but a second round pick is better than a third round pick. So, yeah, but watch. They'll bury the Kings. They'll win 6-1.
Yes, I can see that 100%. Last thing for you here, just tying all of tonight kind of together. Outside of the fact that it was performative for the most part, which we know. Do you think the Leafs went over the top tonight? Do you think that it was too much for them to keep going at Gudas and continue the hate-filled game that they brought to the table here tonight?
Oh yeah, it was ridiculously over the top, and the thing is, they won't get any credit for this. Like I said before, this was meaningless. Okay, this is like, what's the expression? Chinese food. If you eat it and then 5 minutes later you're hungry again. Like that. That's what this was. A quick meal. It's like, okay, but this is not something that will sustain you. And them playing like this all the time would be something that would accomplish a lot. But it's not in their DNA. They just don't play this way. There are certain players that, Jake McCabe plays a physical game, and a 20-year-old Easton Cowan is showing some passion, but this team this is not reflective of what they are and what they do. So that is up to the new general manager to find players that can do that. You can't trade to get those guys because every team wants to keep them. You have to find them, you have to develop them, and it's yet to be seen whether they, other than Cowan right now, whether they have players in the pipeline that they can bring up and have an impact. It would be nice if they gave them an opportunity. You give Bo Gruel 19 minutes tonight, and you give Jacob Quillen 12. And last game against St. Louis, Jacob Quillen played 16 minutes, and he got his first NHL point. Wow. Is that how it works? You give a guy more playing time and he actually does something?
That's know.
Why he needs to be fired.
I know. I'm with you. Mike. All right. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to do this here tonight at 2 a.m. here now, spending an hour with me to break this all down and talk about the True Living firing, what's next with Berube. What do you got coming up here? What's next for you over the next little while?
Well, I write every day about the Leafs at Hockey Hot Stove, so I'll probably be writing about True Living and who the candidates are tomorrow. And like I said, I covered the Sabres for the Hockey News, and the city of Buffalo is getting primed for a first-round matchup. It might look like it's going to be the Canadiens. If it's Montreal-Buffalo, it's going to be a zoo here because that there are a lot of Canadiens fans in Hamilton and in Southern Ontario, and they're going to come down here. And I don't know whether they're going to be doing like a Jurassic Park, Maple Leaf Square type thing in Buffalo, but I think for making the playoffs for the first time since 2011, a lot of people are excited. So I'll be writing about that as well at the Hockey News.
All right, perfect, Mike. Appreciate you doing this here tonight. Look forward to reading what you've got to say over the next little while and covering this as we get prepared for who the hell knows, Berube firing, GM hiring. I don't know what the next couple of weeks have in store for us, but everything will be broken down here on Leaf Station 401, and I'm sure that we'll have you here on the After Dark show, a part of it as we get through the rest of this season. So thank you, Mike, as always. Appreciate it, and I was going to say enjoy the rest of your night, but enjoy your sleep, man. Enjoy your sleep.
Yeah. My pleasure, Zach. Have a good one.
Thanks, Mike. There you go. Mike in Buffalo jumping on here with us to help break everything down from what happened here today for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So there was the Radko Gudas game or the the Brad True Living firing, all of that here on the channel. For those of you guys who want to call into the show, the link is pinned in the top of the chat there. So while I wait for some of you guys to continue to queue in, a couple more things for you guys as well. Make sure to keep liking the stream. We are 6 likes away from smelling salts, but we're going to get to a couple of different things here on the program, like our best bet segment. Reminder, hockey fans, this show is a presentation of Bet365. You're tired of waiting for the end of the game to get paid? Ready to move on to the next puck drop? That's why Bet365, an official partner of the NHL, has 3-goal early payout. If the team you're riding goes up 3 goals at any point in the game, they'll pay your bet out early. Hockey moves fast, and now with 3-goal early payout, there's one less thing you have to wait around for. At Bet365, download the app and see what early payout's all about. Must be 19 or older, Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you or someone you know has concerns about gambling, visit connectsontario.ca. Terms and conditions apply. We lost both of our best bets here tonight, so we are now down 1.1 units on the season. It has been an absolute battle for us this year, and we are now off 5 consecutive losses to get us to this point. We had climbed back up, and now we dropped back down. We lost Easton Cowan and Matthias Michelli anytime goal. Kind of just felt like the type of night Cowan was going to get involved, or Michelli was going to get involved. Like, I thought that this was going to be one of those ones where Michelli just sneaks one in early, and then, you know, the rest of the game goes to shit for the Leafs in terms of the battle and compete against the Ducks, and they just decide, hey, we're going to take this thing. Instead, it was the Ducks who came out to an early lead on the scoreboard, then the Maple Leafs who climbed back, which I thought just wasn't going to be the case. I thought they were going to get rid of everything early and then fall apart late, and didn't happen. So we lose that one. And then in terms of Knies, Cowan, I thought that Cowan was going to, just based on how he's been playing, really, and the opportunities that he's getting, I thought that Cowan was going to potentially have an opportunity here, plus 400 for him. He did have a couple of good chances. I did like the bet still. We only put a quarter of a unit on that one, so that actually correcting our units here. We are actually only down 0.85 of a unit, not a full unit on this season, because we lost a quarter of a unit on Cowan, half a unit on Michelli. So that's how our best bets here tonight shake out. Reminder, if anybody wants to call in, the link is pinned in the chat there for you guys to get involved. So click on that here now as well. Continue to like the stream, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. Leaf Station 401, wherever Leafs, right here on YouTube, Leaf Station After Dark, wherever you get your podcasts. As you probably saw here earlier today, live immediately following the Brad True Living news, breaking everything down in real time. Having on David Pagnotta, having on Dan Riccio to help us dig into everything that happened here with Brad True Living today. With that, let's get to our first caller of the game, caller of the night here. So let's welcome to the program, Jeremy. Jeremy, do we got you there?
Zach.
Jeremy? Yep.
You got me?
Yep, I got you.
Fucking Android. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Leafs Nation 401 and the fucking, what do you call it there? The Copycat Chat Room League. How's it going, my guy?
It's not bad. A lot to break down here tonight. How's it going with you?
Well, I don't know. It's going. It's going. I don't know how I want to come in tonight. If anybody who wants me to come in fucking crazy.
Buddy, you come in however you want to come in. It's up to you. I don't want to tell you how to do your section of the show.
Well, if I had a section, then I would know. So right now, it's like, hey, it's the fourth call. And we're talking, me and the wife there today. It's like, Jeremy, do you know that you're about to call in on the 4th time tonight and stay up this late to call into a fucking podcast when you can't even call the vet to get your Great Dane there and make it the appointment, or your own a dentist appointment or massage appointment, but you'll call into a fucking podcast? Just a shame. All the Habs haters, fucking Sens haters, etc. To where it's like, hey, get your own shit to fucking do. To where it's like, yeah, I don't know, babe. I looked at the fucking chat for the last couple of years, and it's like, I've had enough. I've had enough. There's so much fucking stupidity out of there, outside. I don't know what to do. We gotta shame some people in the most proper way. And like when I've said before, like I don't know how to speak. Well, I don't know how to speak anymore because my tone is a problem. It's a problem with my fucking friends. To where it's like, hey, how we doing today, boys? Well, how are you doing today, Jer? Yeah, I'm fine. Like every other fucking 364 days, because 365, we all have one bad day. We all have a day that we don't give a fuck. Just like St. Louis. Hey, fuck you, Berube. We're not going to give a fuck tonight. This is your old team. Boom, no give a fucks. Then we go to Anaheim, where the team is just overdoing it with the fight shit. And we already know Easton Cowan's a new tough guy, right? To where it's like, tonight was terrible for the fact of, sorry, I haven't even got to my point at the end of the day. Bottom line, dude, I am like rattled right now to where are we seriously showing all this effort that is like for a hockey player or a human, it's, hey, if that dude fucking pushes my buddy over, fuck you, motherfucker. We do all this work right now. Force it. Easton Cowan's a motherfucker, dog. Motherfucker. Like, great thing, Shanahan, when we had a president, got everything all cleared up with Keon so we could retire the number 7. Because Roberts, when he wore it, oh, I ain't disrespecting that number. You are getting fucking hammered. To where we got to retire it. To where that's his junior number, that kid. Now that kid is like, you know what? I'm going to be the next Marchand without licking or biting fingers and shit like that. But that kid is a fucking dog. The moment they finally said, hey, you know what? We finally traded some people, so we got to have you in the fucking lineup. Because, you know, like, all respect to Berube. You know what I mean? His face was fucking like he's really coaching. Like, let's not get to Cassidy. He has a tan. He's in Vegas, but Marner's like, oh, fuck. Oh, this is going to look bad on me getting a coach fired fucking 70-something games in a season. Man. Oh, what fucking George are you fucking me? Oh, we could have him done if we get knocked down first round. No big deal. Bottom line is, it's like everybody losing that to where we have a dog in that fucking Easton Cowan. I don't care what anybody says. That dude is going to be a Marchand, but not with the licking and the big nose. Dude, people talk about, I watch our shit afterwards where it's like dust and fucking meth.
Did we just lose Jeremy there? He's talking about dust and meth, and then he goes offline.
I went to school with Bissonnette when he was a rookie, where we used to say to him, hey, dude, fucking, if there was dust between not a picket fence but a chain link, you could snort that from over there. At the end of the day, he's going to be the kid that fucking doesn't have the nose, but he has that dog lower body, and he's going to rough you up. 4 fights this year? Is he behind fucking Max Domi to where we're forcing fights? That was a disgrace tonight. Why?
Why do you think that was a disgrace?
To where now I totally lost my point because of this fucking internet thing.
You're good.
I was losing my rant. Where was I? Zach, help me out here.
You were talking about why it's a disgrace. Why is it a disgrace?
Oh, sorry. Yes. Why it's a disgrace? Because you shouldn't need this long as a fucking team to figure out this should be regular, not forced. Remember after that Anaheim game, the first one? And it kind of drifted off after fucking 9 periods later. Right? Now it's like, oh, the hype up for the Ducks game. Boom, they start hitting, but at the end of the day, is they exposed themselves. Plus, they made other teams expose themselves to where, holy shit, you guys actually body check? Fucking do better. I've seen you do better. Look at this team. They're fucking going like orangutans for no goddamn reason because it's forced. But now we're going to do this forced and this set it up like a Rocky Balboa in the Russian. If he dies, he dies. You know what I mean? No. What I would want if I was a fucking assistant captain or a captain on the team is no. Hey, speak up in the room and say, listen, we all know that guy's playing on that ankle. We all know he's playing tonight because he knows he's going to get criticized. Fuck the Anaheim media, but hockey media, because this is the one on the schedule on a Monday night or Tuesday, whatever the fuck it is. He has to play. I want you to chop that ankle. If there's 23 players in the room, we're on a 4-game road swing. I'm asking for 60 sticks, 60 hockey sticks, because I want 30 for the first game against the Ducks, and I should be able to make it with 30 for the last 3 road games the way I played all year. To where I'm breaking sticks off the ankle, I'm chopping him, I'm making his life a living hell and being like a dad. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you know what? You're getting it. You want to talk back to the teacher like that at school? Get the fuck to your room. I'll be up there and talk to you in a second. You're getting it. And then the kid just waits. Maybe the old man don't even show up, but the lesson right there is the afraid of every time you get in a scrum up till then is, yeah, I'm fucking you up too. I got fucking 10 sticks for you in the first. Yeah, bro, I got 10 for 6 sticks for you in the fucking first too. To where 3 guys are up in the face and they chop them. Don't give him an opportunity to do a little fake, he's gone after the first period. He didn't do that, or gone after the second period. No, you make sure you chop him. You go after everybody. You break those synergy sticks, whatever they play with, that break on a fucking one-timer with a fucking dude that hits at 88 Ks an hour. There were, by the third period, halfway through the game, then they've had enough and you get it. So we're right there. That's all you could do right now, because at the end of the day is all this shit should be automatic. And when you set it up like a goddamn Muhammad Ali fight right there in the center, that is a fucking disgrace, bro. Sitting there winking over Max Domi. Yeah, maybe he wasn't on the ice at that fucking time the other game. It don't matter. Now you guys are doing it forced. And I bet you a fucking dollar to the fucking cent, or cent to the dollar, however you want to make this shit up and do numbers. I could do them with the fucking best Rain Man. Yes, 276 toothpicks. To where this shit should be automatic. It shouldn't have took Auston Matthews, like I said before. The Easton Cowan, the kid that got hit and got back up, Canadian, Ontario, we know, come on, right? To where he's the one that's punching everybody's lights out since then. When has everybody forgot he was the one that got laid first? To where, What are we doing here? That was a disgrace. That's why I'm disappointed, because this shit should be automatic. Why are we doing it now when it don't matter? And now we are forced, Zach. That's why they're doing it. Acting class. We are not in a fucking drama class.
Okay, so let me jump in here on this. So a couple different things. So in the grand scheme of things, I do agree with you in regards to this being performative and it being frustrating because it's too little, too late. Now, the thing is, for me, this had to happen.
Because I'm going to let you give her is, put it this way, Stolarz last year against Florida, and then McLean against fucking Islanders, and that's where Riley and everybody wanted to punch people out when the goalie barely got fucking ruffled by a Mike Modano flying shirt, cooking with butter down the fucking highway, to where now Riley has to do it forced. It should have been a punch the lights out last year to this year. Carry on, my guy.
No, like I 100% agree with you. This should have happened already. And that's the biggest issue with these guys, is that this should have happened and should have been the response immediately. Now, do I take any stock in what they're doing right now to finish out this season? No. If this is going to be something that sends a message and changes who they are next season, and they come out and they rally around each other and there's a difference there, then yes, I will change my tune on it. But I agree with you on that. The reason I don't think that this I don't go as far to say that this is a disgrace. I just don't put enough stock into it to say this is who they are. I believe in them. I believe that this is what, this was the rallying moment. I need to see it next year when everything isn't so fresh and they're not immediately following all the criticism. Now, the thing that I'm going to disagree with, where I'm like, I'm not willing myself to say this is a disgrace and everything like that. And you're entitled to your opinion. I get it. My disagreement is, it's been brought up in the chat by Irv Blitzer, and I agree with Irv, and I want to make sure I'm clear on this, is that the stuff that I'm seeing online right now is kind of frustrating me a little bit, where everybody's like, the Leafs are embarrassing, what are they doing, all this stuff. The problem I have with that is when Tampa does it, when Florida does it, everyone looks at them and goes, look how awesome this is. Look how great these guys are. Look at them do it. And it's like, that's a team. Look at, they love each other, blah, blah, blah. And everyone loves it because they stick up for each other and it's entertaining and all this stuff. The kickback that everyone's getting, or the Leafs are getting from everyone online right now over this whole thing, I think is fucking ridiculous. Because if anybody does it outside of the Toronto Maple Leafs, everyone's all rah, this is awesome. Look at the battle that these guys have. So that is one argument to it where I just disagree with that whole side of things. But what I do agree with, which is kind of counterproductive to what I just pointed out, but what I do agree with is just that believing in it as a Leafs fan who's watching this, I don't get any warm and fuzzies and go, yes, the group is galvanized. Like, it feels very performative. Yeah.
We're Gary Roberts, we're number 7, and we were the Toronto make me laughs, not the Toronto soft sweetheart coach purses and clutches and all that stuff. We were up there with the Boston Bruins to where when Ottawa used to have to get their team tough when they were finesse with the Hostas, the Havlats, the Albertsons, the Reddens, and all the cute guys and all that stuff. The Heatleys and Spetzas. But we ran the shit out of them. That we were the tough team back then. Now we got to this perception of soft team, but soft only comes with what's beside you. If you're not playing for the guy beside you or the fucking emblem on the front of the jersey, not the back, and the paycheck every 2 weeks, it don't matter what they show us right now. It needs to be consistency, which I know you know what I'm saying right now. We're not taking this as right now, this last 8 games, it's annoying a real hockey fan to where motherfuckers. If you guys only put like 88%, I'm going to say it's my number. I've already said that. And Nylander, look at Nylander. You think he gave 100% tonight, got 4 points? Fuck no. He exposed himself just like they exposed himself when they started doing all this and exposing other teams. At the end of the day is, hey fellas, it ain't that fucking hard to bump into somebody. Well, unless you're that Terry guy. Holy shit, he couldn't fall over a piece of fucking shin pad tape into a fucking player all season long, 56. At the end of the day is it's so easy to play like this. Now you are doing it. It's frustrating because you are letting us misevaluate the team along with everybody else.
I understand. I understand. And again, like the only thing that makes me hold out any type of hope is what Buffalo has done, where Buffalo had a very similar incident that obviously didn't result in as significant of an injury, but Tage Thompson last year gets taken out by Nason, and everyone on Buffalo stands around and looks around and goes, "Oh, not me. I'm not the one who's going to be the guy to do it." And now you see that that's changed in that group. They acknowledged it openly and said, "Yeah, we saw that happen, and we said that's never going to happen again. We're not going to let that happen with our group." If the Maple Leafs use this moment to decide that will never happen again, hey man, hand up, I'll be the first one to admit it. Okay, sure, this wasn't performative. This was actually you making a change. But I need to see it next season and more than just this year and them closing out the last couple of games in the last couple of weeks for me to start to believe that that's the case and that they're not this soft team and they're not the guys who are going to do that, and they'll show up and stand up for each other when it matters. That's the thing for me, is that it's just got to extend out to that. What else you got for me here, Jeremy? Not be forced.
Like watching Pizzetta That is my second to the point is watching Pizzetta going around looking for a fight. We know you're from Toronto. We know you want to fight. You are not the guy to fight. You shouldn't even be in this position to be in the lineup, to be even thinking the way you are, starting the game like you did the first time with Anaheim right now. This comes from within the fucking group. You had to wait all these games, apparently, for whatever fucking reason, to get in the lineup to show some toughness, to have some. But when you're walking around, when you did that shit to Gudas, when he did that to Gudas, he should have skated away. There, you got some good shots. Boom, boom, boom. Now they've caught on what you're doing all game, trying to fight. Boom, boom. You should have been doing that every shift, every whistle. Boom, boom, to where he snaps and he wants to grab you. Then we have 4 guys plus Stolarz on top of Gudas. Then he gets it. Not at the front start of the game to where if they wanted, they could be like, hey, fuck it, right on. We fought them. Fuck it. They know we're tough. We did something. Highlight of a Monday night game. Woo, woo. We're tough. Better believe us next year. At the end of the day, it's like we talk, and even Brugger, there is something in the room. Something's not gelling. And I was blown away on Trevelyan being fired because it's kind of backwards. And what statement does that make to your fan base, Keith Pally, when you fired the GM with 8 to go? We are not doing a Lou Lamoriello with 7 games to go, firing Robbie Fedoruk and bringing in fucking Larry Robertson. You're not even in a position to win. Like Mitch Marner got fucking McKinnon. That dude is so delusional. He is so offended if you talk about anything ruthless, blah, blah, or fucking players feel comfortable here. Love it here. Yeah, okay. One bad shift. See ya. Hey, Gerald Glenn, we got a cab out there. You're paying for that one on your own, motherfucker. We're on the road tonight. Don't even come to the building after we fire you. Move. Like, yeah, ruthless. That GM did his move today or yesterday because of fear of his own job. Keith Pelly did his move today on the fear of what's Toronto going to think if we don't do anything because everybody's up in the air. We don't know this and that. We got to do something, and bam. Hey, Trevelyan's gone. What the fuck? Isn't it like coach first and then we fire the fucking GM? Because who hires the president? You know what I mean? There's no accountability. The Pelly is running a little thing up there like Carol Ballard in Maple Leaf Gardens to where no. Son of the sucker. We need a president in there to hire the GM, and then they go over it to where, hey, coach, hire your staff. Now we're getting GMs fired with 8 games to go. What kind of statement? Let them both go, fire them both at the end of the season. That's why it's a disgrace today, because of how the players reacted to that after Mark Savard, because Mark Savard was the problem. We already went through that when I fucking said a bad word to where I don't like saying words like that about fucking people that a couple less cupcakes, it'll be okay. At the end of the day is, wow, Mike Sullivan or Steve Sullivan, Timmins boy, to where I'm waiting to be like, hey, they're going to talk about him like he's a genius. You know what I mean? To where no, the players with the room. At the end of the day is Toronto did it all backwards today. The players been doing it all backwards all season for the last 3 seasons to where it took all this. This is the game buildup for a big standing up at the front. You didn't hack the shit out of that motherfucker to where, boom. He had to leave on his own before we got to fight him, is what I'm trying to say. Make him leave because we injured him even more and more and injured more players to where that's a statement. But let's do it at the end of the season. Let's do it next year. But at the end of the day, where the fuck was this all year? What are you guys just friends now? Hey, Zach, we go out to the bar there and we're teammates all year long. And then 71 games in, we go to the bar. And now, like after you stuck up for me, right? You know, oh, there's fucking Zach beating up that dude for me again because he looked at me wrong. Like, you know what I mean? What happened today with that traveling thing is, yeah. That was a fuck you argument today. That's why it happened like that. Oh, there is announced 2 hours later that Trevelyan was very... Yeah, they had an argument about shit that was going on. Say, you know what? You're out. Fuck you. And it was the easiest way for Trevelyan or Pelly Blue Glasses to be like, yeah, well, there you go. Leafs fans, there, you love it. There, you got action. You guys have been waiting to hear answers Just that they made a move today for reaction and for everybody to calm their heads. And there is no need for it from him. Nobody's firing Pelly like anybody would fire Kelly McCrimmon for firing fucking Bruce Cassidy after winning a cup 3 years ago. Not 19, 3 years ago. Mitch Marner comes there, defense, 18 goalies, the pillow division. Oh my God, get us our silk PJs from BS. We're going to have a fucking fight. For the rest of the division, for 8 games, fire them, boom. Yeah, sure. Try to be Lou Lamoriello some more. You know what I mean? To where he thinks those kids over there, well, if the goalies play better, which we assume we will, and Jack Eichel will finally get a power play goal, and Mitch, blah, 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 all these things, and a little shot in the arm. Come on, buddy. I think it's going to shape it up for a lot. Wirtz is just going in there to stand there and be like, please don't make me snap. You know what I mean? To where this is absolutely, if you look between the lines, today was absolutely absurd. If Berube got fired today, it'd be just as crazy to what the fuck? Now? We're firing him now? What statement? What are we doing? Yeah.
Well, I know I think that was a great call, Jeremy. I got a couple more calls to get to here, so I do appreciate that. I'm sure you're going to call in more over the rest of the season. I hope you do, but I'm going to shut it there. We're 2 a.m., 2:30 a.m. here right now, so I'm going to get to the next couple of calls, Jeremy.
So I finally looked at the chat. Something with the, hey, JD and Jeremy is cocaine. You're going to offend people talking about that because the drugs I use is over the table. It's called Michelob Ultras, 5 tonight. And it's a little bit of sativa to keep you from being a diva, baby. So don't offend people with those comments in the chat because this day and age, that'll hurt people's feelings. And I feel bad for Mike because it was like actually trash talk. But let's get over the chats here. You're going to make young kids that are staying up late when they shouldn't be and be like, Dad, what's cocaine? Whoa, shit. What the fuck have you been watching? Come on, smarten up. Jesus Christ, I'll give you fuck.
All right, Jeremy.
Get better shit to talk about. Because that's the only negatives I've seen is drugs. That's what we come on.
All right, Jeremy. Thank you for the call tonight.
Diva.
All right, I appreciate the call. Enjoy the rest of your night. We'll talk to you soon.
I'll talk to you later, Zach.
All right, there you go. Jeremy on the line. Let's go to our next caller here. Actually, wait, quickly, I'll do this. We did hit 50 likes here on the post-game show, so thank you guys for watching, liking, subscribing. Appreciate all that. Here's the smelling salts for everybody for hitting 50. Oh, there you go. Here's the smelling salts. What a way to do that at 2:30 in the morning. I guess that's why this is after dark. Okay, let's go to our next caller on the line here. Let's welcome to the program a now fan favorite, Cece. What's up, Cece?
Zach, I think you skipped somebody in line.
Oh, did I hear? Okay, I'll come
because they were waiting for so long. I feel bad.
Okay,
Callan,
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I'll come back to you, Cece. I'll come back to you. Sorry, I didn't realize. My bad. I'll come back to you. We'll come back to Cece in one moment. Let's go to B. Khalid. What's up, B. Khalid? Sorry, I did not realize that I skipped you there. Sorry, man.
No, I don't mind at all, to be honest. That was nice of her. She can go ahead. I don't really care, to be honest.
No, you're up. I'm not going to do the back and forth. Yeah, you're up. You're up. What's up, B. Khalid?
So what's going on? Obviously, a long time since I've been on the show. Last time I was on here, I think it was like 3 games after the Olympic break.
Yes, you came on right before because you came on for the win in Edmonton, and then you came on shortly after the Olympic break, and now you're back.
And now I'm back. Just want to let everyone know I haven't watched a single fucking Leafs game ever since then until tonight. I watched tonight's game, and I was utterly pissed at the result. So I love what happened before the game.
Yeah.
I love what happened before the game, and I'm very excited. And I don't know who mentioned it, but isn't it kind of ironic where the Leafs play the Blues over the weekend and then Brad Treliving gets fired on Monday? I mean, I'm not I'm not maybe like pumping everyone's like getting everyone excited here, but I think that's a little bit maybe like there's maybe something there. Could be. Maybe I'm just fucking making shit up. But
Because of the Armstrong connection, you're saying?
exactly, yeah.
Okay.
And then also, yeah, when I come on here, they fucking lose a lot of games. So I just wanted to make sure I make an appearance today. So because I'm pissed that they lost. Like, these
That they
fuckers
won.
are like what? Yeah, that they won. Sorry, these fuckers are 4 points ahead of the Blues, and the Blues are on the 5th spot. Imagine if Florida gets their hands on that pick. So yeah, I'm gonna make sure I get on this appearance because I know I'm bad luck. So I'd love to. That's all I wanted to do, to be honest.
Okay, now you think that you came on here, so they're going to lose a bunch in a row.
Exactly.
That's it. Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
So I'm gonna
fair.
keep it nice and short. Yeah. And then
Okay.
also they should maybe, if they want, change the fuck up that they did 8 to 10 years ago with picking Dubas over Mark Hunter. So maybe get Mark Hunter in. I'm just going on a fucking tandem here, but Domi, good job. I've hated on you all season, but honestly loved what you did today. So shout out Prague. You know what? We don't have any beef.
Beef's gone. Domi
Beef's
fought
gone.
Gudas. Beef's gone. Okay. Okay.
Fuck Gudas, and I thought they should have went after Seneki. Like should have went after the young guys more. To be honest, today.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people didn't seem to be very happy with the Maple Leafs, saying it was a classless display here tonight.
Yeah.
I think it's a little ridiculous. Some of the response that's been coming back for it, yeah, I mean, in terms of like actually winning this game, yeah, also frustrated. Like, just lose, man. You were right there. You can
Genuinely.
sniff a top 5 spot. Just lose. Just lose. Just lose.
There was a moment there where I was like, when they were losing all these games, I'm like, these guys know that like losing is gonna get them bottom. So I'm like I feel like they actually don't give a shit. I'm like, is there a chance that they know that they have only the top 5 pick if it's in the top 5 pick? I mean, they have the pick only if it's in the top 5, so they know that. And then I was like, no, there's no way. Like, why would they intentionally lose that much? And now they're just fucking doing everything I want them not to do. So, yeah. Like, I get it. You don't want to lose every single day. You want to show up, at least win, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I don't get why they were so motivated to this win a game. It means nothing. Genuinely, it means nothing.
I don't know. Maybe it's the fired GM bump. That's what it is. It's
Maybe.
like Kevin Adams in Buffalo. He gets fired and the Sabres can't stop winning. Now it's going to be the Maple Leafs. Brad Treliving gets fired and they're going to win out the rest of the year.
Fucking, what a horrible bump that would be. I'd hate my life. Yeah,
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Anything else here tonight?
No, I just want to keep it nice and short. Thanks for letting me come in first, CC. And I'm not going to watch another Leafs game for the rest of the fucking season. So hopefully let's go lose another 7 in a row, boys. Let's go.
All right, let's do it. Thanks for the call, B.
All right.
Khalid. Appreciate it.
Take care.
All right, there you go. B. Khalid. Very thankful for the call there from B. Khalid, and obviously B. Khalid seems to believe he's the good luck charm the opposite way, where whenever he calls into the show, it just basically sewers the Leafs, and then they just continue to lose after he calls in. So hopefully that'll get them back in the right direction. With that, let's go to our next caller here. I went to her a moment ago, but then she threw the ball back to B. Khalid because he had been waiting. So let's welcome in Cece to the program. Cece, do we got you there now?
Yes, you do. I came in because you should know why I called. Like, you know that meme where they're just like, funeral food's so good you don't even know who died. Like, I I don't care about the game, which I watched. Great, happy, good fights, whatever. I'm just happy Brad got fired. That's why I called in, just to be like, this is Brad's funeral. Put your lighters up. We're smoking on that Brad pack tonight. That's literally the only reason why I called in. Just like, I'm in a really good mood. Go Cowan. Anytime anyone touched anyone, he was flying in. I thought it was really, really good. Like, I think the young guys get it. Whatever the vets do at this point, I genuinely do not care. I'm just happy that this new young gen, whoever we're going to get for the next couple of years, seems to get it. That's all I can ask for. But yeah, so the Wicked Witch is dead. Goodbye, everybody. Good night.
Okay. Look, I mean, one thing I will say about what Cece had just said there is she just left. She gave her thoughts on that and then cut. The one thing I'll say about what Cece just said, and it was brought up in the chat, and I want to acknowledge this, is I think it was Irv, actually, Blitzer, who said this in the chat. A positive that comes from tonight and over the last couple of games is the guys who seem to be leading the way, whether it's the intensity, the pace of play, creativity, scoring chances, seems to be a lot of Matthew Knies and Easton Cowan. Those are two guys that you want here in your future. Those are two guys that you want to be leading the charge and to be pieces that you continue to build around as you move forward. Guys that we think are playing the right way, the guys that have the right heart, the right identity. And they're the ones who right now, while things are going sideways for the Maple Leafs, continue to show up every night. Now, Knies, has he had the best season for himself? No. Is he playing the best he can right now? No. I think there's a lot more to his game, but just continuing to show every night he's not going to quit, not going to give up, even if it's not the best night for him, I think is a positive sign. And the fact that it is the two young guys, and we're not like, if we were coming here and every night it's like, well, the best players on the ice were Dakota Joshua and Steven Lorentz and Calle Yarncroke, like, that's nightmare fuel for Leafs fans who are looking at a team that you're hoping can take a step back in the right direction next year. It's Easton Cowan, it's Matthew Knies for the most part that I look at and have the positive takeaways from in each of these games. And to me, that's a positive going forward. Couple super chats here I want to get to before we get to some of the callers that are still waiting right now. So let's start with this one. And a reminder, proceeds from our super chats go to Sick Kids Charity. This comes in from Bondi Sports Center. Bondi says, this game is just Mark Henry's theme song. I apologize if that's a good reference. I have no idea what Mark Henry's theme song is. Not to say that's a bad comment. I just don't know. Mike Fammy, why are we winning games now? And why the fuck are we fighting Gudas almost 3 weeks later from the Matthews knee on knee? Why now? The winning games, yeah, agreed. I mean, stop winning. I've had enough of the winning. Let's just lose. Fighting Gudas and responding to that. Come on, man. Like, why are you questioning that? It had to happen. You know, it's not even a Leafs thing. Like, I think that's a little bit ridiculous. This is an NHL situation where the retribution will happen at some point later on in the next meeting, whatever. And a lot of times, in most normal cases that aren't the Maple Leafs, it's something where a guy will continue to get abused the rest of the time that he plays against that team and the same group of guys until the end of time, because they just won't let it go and won't forget what happened and won't forget how a guy treated somebody or whatever, and it'll go nuts and you'll get these games like this, and that happens. Like, why are we questioning this stuff? I think it's ridiculous. Maxentius Decimus, the fact they fired him now made me so happy. Look, I think the right move was to fire Brad Treliving. It's the timing of it all. I'm not even mad that they did it right now. It's just confusing to me. That makes me question what the strategy is here, what the plan is for the organization, because it kind of feels like they don't have one. It feels like they're flying by the seat of their pants on a day-to-day basis where, like, one day we could win some games and things look positive, and the next day they lose some games and maybe this guy's got to go, maybe that guy's got to go, maybe we've got to rebuild, maybe we've got to fire everybody, and then they win 2 and William Nylander has a goal and 3 assists and we're building around these guys and we're giving Brad another shot. And it's like, what the fuck are we doing? Why is this? We're taking 5-game stretches. We're figuring it out as we go. No. Come up with a goddamn plan. What do 5 games, 10 games change for you about a GM or the future of the team? Pay attention. Be attentive to detail about how these things are happening. Be proactive in some of these decisions. That's what's frustrating to me. Maxentius Decimus, Mike from Buffalo. Hostages me more than Prague. Come on. Mike is a great guest and a great participant here on the show. I appreciate Mike for calling in regularly, and I love having Mike on the show. I need to address this here right now because it's going to bother me if I go off the air before I do, so I want to make sure that I talk about this. This is a tweet that I saw just kind of during the game and, towards the end of the game here. This tweet from Scott Billick. Scott says, Pretty classless display tonight by Leafs players. Domi crushed an injured Gudas in a game he didn't have to play but did, so Toronto could get its revenge. Domi got it, and then other players kept kicking a guy while he was down. Code rulebook got a new chapter, I guess. Look, I think that this is a bullshit take by Scott Billeck. I do. I think to look at this incident and say that this is a classless display and Domi got the revenge and you shut it down there and you end it at that and it's breaking codes in the code rule book and all that kind of stuff is absurd. Again, the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers have games that last 17 fucking hours because of a hit on Alex Barkov. And the revenge gets seeked on Brandon Hagel every single time the two teams meet. And then it extends beyond them to the point where the entire game gets out of hand and gets ridiculous. And all anybody ever wants to say after the fact is, wow, look at these teams doing the right thing and sticking up for each other. We love this game. We love this style. It's so entertaining. It's so much fun. Look how courageous and brave these guys are. And look how much they stick up for each other. And I love watching those games as well. But now all of a sudden it's the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I do understand that there's an element of this where it's like, is it performative? Yeah, probably. And the moment to respond was when the incident happened, was when Gudas needed him. It didn't. But to point out this incident and say that this is classless display by the Leafs players and to point at it and say that they're breaking codes and all that kind of stuff, Radko Gudas ended Auston Matthews' season. He had surgery because he had a grade 3 MCL tear and a quad contusion. The fact that we're picking on this game by the Maple Leafs and saying they took it too far, I don't think they did at all. Was it a little bit ridiculous given what we know about the Maple Leafs and the DNA of the Maple Leafs? Yeah, sure. It's a little over the top considering who they traditionally are. That I can understand. But every other team in the NHL would have done this and everyone would have said, that had to happen. That response was warranted. That guy's life should be miserable every time he plays against Team X. For the rest of his life, every time he steps on the ice against this team, he should have to feel it. He should have to go through the gauntlet because he took that player out and he did that to that player. But now that it's the Maple Leafs, no, we can't do this. I just think that this is a bullshit take by Scott. I think it's ridiculous. To be honest with you, I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on and say that it's a Maple Leaf-centric issue. I see the comment here in the chat, McCluskey. If they don't fight, they're criticized. If they do, it's fake. They can't win. They did what they had to do. I think from an internal perspective as Leafs fans and somebody who's watching every game and doing the post-game show, not to put myself on a high horse or a pedestal here, but, I think it's fair for myself and us as Leafs fans to criticize the fakeness of it in terms of not believing in it. But the reality is that game had to happen. They had to do that tonight. The response that they had needed to come. That was a necessary result here tonight against Anaheim. And let's be realistic here. Radko Gudas knew that he was going to be in for a tough one. I give him full marks for enduring it. I give him full marks for playing, for going through the fight. He knew it. He knew he was going to have to do that. But he had to have known that the rest of the night was going to be pretty miserable for him as well beyond that. And he still toughed it out, still stuck through it. Kudos to him. No issues there from that standpoint. But the Maple Leafs should have made his life miserable all night. Again, that's what the Florida Panthers did to Brandon Hagel after the hit on Barkov. Every single time, beyond just the playoffs, all through the preseason, all through the regular season. That's how they responded, and they get praised for it. So why the fuck do the Maple Leafs get pointed out as they're the classless team who's breaking the code? Really? Really? That's just some anti-Leaf bias bullshit, quite frankly. I shouldn't even be giving credit or attention to this tweet and this comment, but this is just so ridiculous to me to see this coming out after this game where it's like, oh, the Maple Leafs can't do that. Sure. The criticism of, is this real? That's fair. The criticism of, they can't do this, this is over the line. Oh, come on. Give me a fucking break. Give me a break. That's where I think it's becoming ridiculous here tonight. And that's the criticism that's really frustrating me. More callers. Let's go to our next caller on the line here. Let's welcome to the program, Jordan. What's up, Jordan?
Hi, Zach. How are you?
Not bad, buddy. How are you doing?
I'm not happy we won tonight. As you know from my last couple calls, I was hoping we'd lose every game.
Yep.
But what amazes me, I got no problem with them firing Brad. I think he's a terrible GM. But he was in Anaheim. Like, they're just a weird organization. They seem like they have no guidance, and they don't seem professional. It just baffles me the way they do things, which just proves to me why they're not very good. So hopefully they can get someone in that will be professional and do a good job. But the good news is it can't get much worse. So.
It could.
I guess you're right. But the thing, though, is, like, honestly, I'd rather them just be absolutely terrible than them at least maybe, like, oh, maybe they'll be good. Because choking in the playoffs every year, I'd rather them just not make the playoffs. So that's just my 2 cents on that.
Well, I mean, I'd rather them make the playoffs. I think it's far more enjoyable when they make the playoffs and compete every single year. I do. But, I mean, I don't know. Come on. You can't really say that you'd rather them not make the playoffs.
I'm telling you, them getting in the playoffs, they get your hopes up, and then they just blow it. Like, it's just, there was a time where I actually thought that group could actually win. Now I know this group cannot win. So it's like, do a complete overhaul, bring in a new group. But I'm telling you, it's going to be a nice spring that I don't have to go watch the Leafs choke in the playoffs this year. It's going to be much more relaxing. I can go golf. I don't have to spend 3 hours watching them choke away the playoffs. So.
And that is one fair point there. I guess everyone gets a reset from Maple Leafs playoff disappointments, so there is that. Anything else you got for me here tonight, Jordan?
No, that's all. We'll see. I'll be curious to see on Thursday if they fire Berube an hour before the game, though. That would be quite amusing if they did that. I don't think they're going to, but who knows? And it will be interesting tomorrow to see what Pelly has to say.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to provide anything of substance, to be completely honest with you. And based on how things have gone traditionally, I kind of feel like they're not going to, allow any or too many hardball questions. And those that do come across, I feel like will be very politically answered. So I don't expect too much myself. But yeah, it will be interesting just to at least see what he says and what he gets asked.
Yeah. All right, Zach, have a good night. I'll see you Thursday, bud.
All right, Jordan. Thanks for the call. See you Thursday. Appreciate it. There you go. Jordan on the line. Let's go to our final caller here. Before we wrap things up, let's go to Luke on the line. What's up, Luke?
Hey, Zach. Can you hear me, first of all?
Yep, I got you.
Okay, perfect. So, yeah, that was a hell of a day. That's for sure.
Well, that was an interesting one. I didn't expect the Brad Treliving firing to come across an hour and 15 minutes before the Radko Gudas thing, that's for sure.
Yeah, I heard you talking about that as well. I had the same thoughts. Like, the timing about it was just crazy. And an hour before a game. It really does seem like Pelly or whoever is running this, like they are just running out to seat of their pants. Because that's not how you run an organization.
No, and that's what I just find interesting. Like, you played the game on Saturday, you got embarrassed, you went all day Sunday, nothing happened. You went all day Monday. Let's remember that too. You went all day Sunday. You went all day Monday, because this didn't happen at noon on Monday. This didn't happen at 9 a.m. on Monday to start the day where you said, hey, we took 24 hours plus we thought about it. No. You waited a full day and then a full other day, a full work day, before dropping it at 8:45 before one of the most anticipated Leafs games of the year. When every eye in the NHL was on your team and what you were going to do tonight, you also threw in a grenade on top of that. Like, not to say that they can't do it or can't fire Brad Treliving right now, but why couldn't this have happened yesterday? Did something change between last night and today? Did something change between this morning and today to make this happen? Did they panic that Kyprios got the news first and said I could see him being fired? Did they panic that Friedman tweeted out that he was going to be let go? Like, did that prompt the firing? This is what I just don't understand about all of this stuff. It always felt meticulous. It felt well thought out and planned about how they were going to go through things. And this one just felt like they were like, oh shit, I guess we got to fire the guy. Fired. Where is the thought process?
No, that's exactly the point, and I think we've been seeing this for quite a while as well. It just seems like they don't have like an organizational plan for the future, and this is exactly that kind of thing. Like, you know, are they going to try to compete next year? Are they going to try to, you know, hang on to certain guys? Like, we just don't know, and it seems like they don't know either. And this is totally indicative of that.
Yeah, agreed. I see in the chat here, Irv says, Friedman said Brad told Pelly, if you were going to do it now. I mean, look, man, I get it. I understand. But again, if they were going to do it, why not get the right person in place at the trade deadline? Why not change the guy who's going to be running the ship then? Now, I know that there could have been a plan in place that said, see, but this is where it becomes contradictory, though. It's like there could have been a plan in place that said, Brad, this is going to be the end. We need you to run the trade deadline. We need you to get rid of these pieces. Don't go crazy. Just get rid of the expiring free agents. If you can get anything else, get it. Hence why the Nick Watt trade goes down. And then they move Lawton. They move McMahon. But then why was Matthew Knies' name out there? Why was there such this buzz about Matthew Knies being on the table and teams being seriously interested and having legitimate phone calls? Like, that doesn't scream to me like they looked at it and they said, no, okay, Brad, you can only operate under these parameters. That extends out beyond the parameters of let's just get the cleanup work done here at the trade deadline. Like, that's a massive organizational change. And that's what scares the shit out of me, is it just feels like they're flying by the seat of their pants right now.
Yeah, and I got to ask you, like, was that a legitimate, like, do we know for sure that this Matthew Knies to the Habs rumor was actually true? Because I heard and it sounded like I don't know, it didn't sound like he was saying it for sure. But I don't know. Do you know anything about that?
Well, like, what we do know for sure is that Matthew Knies' name was in conversations, and the teams that were in conversations with them included the likes of the New Jersey Devils, the Montreal Canadiens, the Anaheim Ducks, and there's Chicago Blackhawks. There's probably a couple others that I'm forgetting right now, but those teams were calling on Matthew Knies, and Brad Treliving was having conversations with them about Matthew Knies. How far they got, how serious they got, I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever know, like only time will tell on that stuff. But like we know that those conversations happened for sure. So that to me is enough to scare the shit out of me about everything happening here.
Yeah, no kidding. Because I mean, like we don't really have that many prospects that you can still call him that, or draft picks. So it's kind of an interesting. Like what, they're just gonna go all in on Nylander and Matthews. These guys are like approaching 30. Like, time is running out and the cupboards are empty. But I mean, aside from all of that, though, like I really actually loved this response tonight. I was shocked by it. I was pessimistic. I thought it was going to be embarrassing. But
I was
no,
pessimistic too. I was. I knew that there was going to be a fight. Like, I was trying to prepare myself mentally during the day today that there was a chance that the Maple Leafs wouldn't do it, because I was like, if I tell myself it won't happen, then the embarrassment after the fact will maybe be diminished. But, like, I knew that there was going to be a fight. I predicted in the pregame video that it was going to be Joshua or Domi. It ends up being Max Domi. He did a hell of a job in that fight. Obviously, we know, as Rosie tweeted out during this one, Radko Gudas is dealing with a hand injury, apparently. And can barely punch if it came down to it. So that's probably not very helpful for him, and part of the reason why he didn't even swing really. But regardless, like, Domi stepped up, said, I got to do this. And he did, and he took care of business. I also thought that was going to be the end. I didn't think that these guys were going to come out and play a physical brand after that happened. I thought it was just going to be get it done, get out of here, and call it a day.
yeah. And I mean, not to sound like a barbarian, but I mean, I liked it. Like, I'm glad. I don't know. I don't like seeing players get injured, I guess. But I don't know. I mean, this is the response to Auston Matthews, like our captain, right? One of the greatest players in the league, at least a couple of years ago. And this, like, this Gudas, like, this doesn't, people forget him screaming in Wall's face, right, during the playoffs. And all these other things he's done too. I mean, he's like that Sidney Crosby too. So it's like, he had it coming, first of all. And I don't mind them playing like the old, like, Bay Street bullies. I kind of liked it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, are they going to do this again next year? Is this going to be who they are, or is this just because they got criticized? Like, is it, are they the kid who wakes up every day and helps do chores around the house, or are they the kid who mopes around doing the chores because their mom yelled at them that they have to do the chores? There's a difference, and then by the time you get to next year, mom stops telling them to do the chores, thinks that the kid's going to be able to do the chores on their own without having to get reminded. And then they forget to do the chores, and now mom has to yell at them to do the chores again. Is that the team? Is that the kid that we have here right now? Or is it the team that got smacked around a little bit and went, oh shit, we need to do the chores, and now they've learned their lesson and they're going to do the chores? Like, that's the question I have. And I guess it almost comes at the perfect time, because you're going to have 7 more games of this animosity amongst the group, and then you're going to have a summer to reset, come back at it next year. Is it actually going to change? You're going to take a huge break where they don't build off the momentum of it necessarily. You go into next season. Sure. Is it going to be different? So that'll answer some questions for me then.
Yeah, and like, just one last thing, like, about that is I don't care so much about the next 7 games, like, because tonight they showed that they can play like this. Yes, there was a big motivation to play like that, but I mean, come on, Berube's gone. There's no way they're keeping him after Treliving's gone, right? So you're going to get new coaches. Hopefully you get some new players, because God forbid if we have to run this team again. I don't know. I think they can play probably a bit tougher next year. Some of these guys, at least.
I know, but my problem is that I felt like this before. Like, there's been moments where things have happened that I felt like, well, they've been galvanized, and they've realized, and they can change, and then it dissipates, and then it's gone. And that's the concern that I have. And ultimately, like, look, Luke, let me say this, and people might get pissed off at me for saying this. I get it, and I know he scored a goal and 3 assists here tonight. I know that they don't win this game if he doesn't have the game that he does. I know that there's an element to this of him showing his intensity by play and by production and scoring and all those kinds of things. I completely understand that. But the incident where Cowan ends up jumping in for William Nylander is still one of those things where it gives me pause on what this group can be next year, because we're looking at all of the pieces around. We watched Domi go out and fight Gudas. We watched McCabe go and target him. We saw Pizzetta target him. We saw Cowan jump in for guys. You saw Matthew Knies getting in the mix. You saw Dakota Joshua finishing every hit. Okay, that's all great. Morgan Rielly was involved in the physical game tonight. But when William Nylander gets mauled in front of the net by Minchikov, and he's laying on the ice after he had just bumped into Ville Husso. And then Easton Cowan comes in and is the first guy to William Nylander's defense, and he jumps at Minchikov and grabs him, and it turns into a wrestling match, and a scrum breaks out, and everyone comes flying in. Who is not in the scrum? William Nylander. He's still sitting there in the blue paint on one knee with his hands down and leaning over. And then to add insult to injury, while the scrum is going on, defending William Nylander, while he's sitting there on one knee in the blue paint, Ville Husso skates over and whacks him in the back of the leg, and all William Nylander does is turn and look up at him. We can talk about all these pieces who are complementary pieces and the guys who are around, and all these guys have stepped up and done this and done that and done this. Are William Nylander and Auston Matthews ever going to get in the mix like that? Are they ever going to stick up for each other like that, or for anybody else on their team like that? I tend to believe the answer to that is no, because I see an incident like that happen tonight where William Nylander refuses to even stick up for himself. He doesn't even stick up for himself. And then he watches a 20-year-old rookie come to his defense, who, by the way, isn't a 20-year-old tough guy rookie. He is just a 20-year-old rookie who just lit it up in the OHL last season, who took it upon himself to learn from the lessons from the Radko Gudas incident the first time to now respond. And yet William Nylander is still sitting there on one knee watching him defend William Nylander. And he's saying, nah, I'm not going to get involved. And then when Ville Husso comes in there to be the second person to do something to William Nylander, he still doesn't respond. Now, maybe I'm just a bit of a lunatic, but in that situation, first of all, if that ends up happening and Easton Cowan comes to my defense, I'm jumping in the scrum there right away. Second of all, if I'm taking 1 second to get up off my ass after I've just been mauled like that, whatever. And by the way, when I say mauled, let's keep this within context. I'm well aware that it wasn't anything egregious, but he gets thrown down by Minchikov. If I'm the one who's getting thrown down like that, and I'm taking a second to get back up, and then the goaltender comes over and slashes me, I'm jumping up and getting in the goaltender's face. And I'm certain that a guy like Nathan McKinnon, guys like Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, that happens to them, they're going to at least get in there and push the guy. I'm not talking about jumping the guy and throwing bombs and trying to kill him, but you can get in his face, you can throw a cross-check back at him, you can slash him back yourself if you so choose to, and that's how you want to defend yourself. But to do fucking nothing is exactly who this group has been the entire time they've been here. And that's what scares the shit out of me, of banking on these guys to be the ones who can still help you get over the hump, because everyone else is doing their dirty work and they can't even fight for themselves. That is what frustrates me about this game tonight. That's the one moment that stands out that is a giant skid mark on all the goodwill that they build up by being tough and sticking up for each other, is William Nylander refusing to stick up for himself.
Yeah. And you know, like between Auston Matthews and William Nylander, like, they're all your arguments can basically be, attributed to both of them. That whole core forward really. But I don't know. I kind of give Austin a little bit of a pass, because with William Nylander, is so much more. Like, I'm sorry, but he seems like a locker room killer, or like a locker room cancer. He really does. And that's exactly what they said about him in this draft year, is that he might be the most skilled player in this draft, but he has attitude problems. And boy, it sure seems like he does. Like, I don't know. He doesn't get along with coaches, it seems. He just does his own thing. Okay, great. You got 4 points. But, he's going to be like a role model for all these other people on the team. It really does come from the top down, and that does include Auston Matthews, I guess. Yeah. But I don't know. I've kind of had enough of William Nylander, especially. But I don't know what to do. It's a tough situation.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's the thing that it's really hard. Like, Dan Riccio joined us on the Instant Reaction